Sometimes it's fun to be the bad guy. Playing a character that has a skewed moral compass generally makes for a good time. So today we've compiled a list of 10 of our favorite games where you get to play the bad guy. Let's get villainous, friends. Number 10 is Overlord. In Overlord, you play the Overlord. The Overlord is a resurrected warrior who has control over hordes of gremlin-esque creatures called minions. He is a silent protagonist trying to reconquer his lands and reestablish his lordship. You've got to defeat 7 corrupt heroes in order to do so. And you've got the option of either being self-proclaimed evil, or just flat out intentionally really evil. Praised for its satire and humor, the game had pretty decent success, and most critics adored it for the immense amount of fun that came with controlling the minions. And at number 9 is Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3. Released for the Game Boy back in 1994, you play as Mario's rival Wario. Because his castle is pretty much kaput by the end of the previous Super Mario Land, Wario decides to steal a golden statue of Princess Toadstool from the Brown Sugar Pirates and Captain Syrup, with the intention of scoring some sweet ransom dollars to rebuild his castle. And depending on how much treasure you score throughout the game, the better your new castle will be by the end of it. Or you'll end up with a birdhouse. And at number 8 is Golden Sun. One of my favorite RPGs for the Game Boy Advance, Golden Sun is a game where you're fairly certain you're playing the heroes. Except, turns out you're not. You're actually stopping the real heroes from succeeding. While you end up failing your quest, it's revealed in the follow-up to Golden Sun that the 2 characters you were trying to stop were actually the good guys all along, despite their sucky personalities and complete lack of transparency on the importance of their tasks. But hey, we all have flaws, right? And at number 7 is Manhunt. In Manhunt, you play a death row inmate. So yeah, objectively bad. When a man named the Director meddles with your sentence and you end up getting a sedative instead of a lethal injection, you're forced to work for him, going around murdering a bunch of gang members. But hey, at least you're not dead. And at number 6 is Braid. This 2008 platform and puzzle game lets you control protagonist Tim, who has set out to find a princess who has been snatched by a horrible and evil monster. And guess who that is? We spend most of the game learning really vague things about the relationship between Tim and said princess, and by the end of the game we discover that the princess has been running from him. Many have analyzed the game since it's had a bit of an ambiguous ending, with some saying it's a metaphor, and one theory being that it is actually a metaphor for the creation of the atomic bomb, the princess being the bomb and Tim being a scientist involved with its creation. And at number 5 is Home. Similar to Braid, Home is a game where you slowly discover that you may actually be the villain in the narrative. So you wake up as a guy who has amnesia and a bum leg, and no idea whose house you've woken up in. Throughout your journey to get back home, you start to unravel a mystery about a disgruntled co-worker, murdered women, and the fate of your wife, Rachel. The game asks players to draw their own conclusions based on the facts they discover, and users online have been trying to piece together the true story since the game's release. And at number 4 is Heavy Rain with the Origami Killer. While Heavy Rain has been known to provide some pretty great unintentional lulls,
hey son, where did he go? You got me searching high and low, my heart is racing. Press X to Jason.
The game itself is supposed to be a film noir thriller, with the 4 protagonists all potentially being the Origami Killer, a serial killer who uses extended periods of rainfall to drown his victims. There's multiple endings in the game, all based on decisions and actions you make, but without any spoilers, one of them is the killer. And at number 3 is Emily Enough, Imprisoned. On the roof of murderous protagonist, and our next number is Emily Enough. Emily Enough is about a little girl who has slaughtered her family, and proceeds to kill more innocent people as you traverse through the game. Emily is a child heiress who kills her family and their servants when she doesn't get what she wants for her birthday, and she ends up being committed to a mental hospital, leaving her to discover the true unsettling nature of the GlaxoChem Center for Mental Wellness. The game was critically acclaimed, especially for its ability to drastically switch tone in the narrative in terms of emotionally affecting players. And at number 2 is Vito Scaletta from Mafia II. Taking a look at another sequel to another crime-ridden series, Mafia II's protagonist Vito Scaletta is someone who objectively can be seen as villainous, despite having some pretty redeeming values and characteristics. Vito is a gangster climbing the ranks of the mafia crime families in Empire Bay. He's a war vet trying to pay back his father's debts, but by doing things like murdering a whole lot of people. And finally, in at number 1 is the Grand Theft Auto series. While you could argue the entirety of the GTA franchise lets you play as the bad guy for the sake of this list, let's take a look at the most recent installment, GTA 5, where you get to play as not only one criminal, but 3, and sometimes one of their dogs, who is also kind of a criminal maybe? Can dogs be criminals? Important questions, guys, but maybe for another video. Anyway, in GTA 5 you play as a retired criminal in witness protection, Michael, and the new kid on the crime block, Franklin, and of course the legendary homicidal and batshit crazy Canadian pilot, Trevor Phillips. From committing heists to assassinating a fictional version of Mark Zuckerberg, GTA 5 is chock full of all the moral ambiguity you can imagine. And oh boy, does it make being bad a whole lot of fun. There we have it, friends. Did your other favorites make the list? What other games did we miss out on? There's a ton of games we didn't have room to include, so let us know your picks in those comments below. But for now, I'm Kelly Pally for Top 10 Gaming, and I'll catch you all in the next one.